Rebekah Watts. I am the owner of CDA Piano Lessons or Coeur d'Alene Piano Lessons. I am also Mrs. Watts in our local school districts. I have been an elementary teacher for the last few years. I've also been teaching piano lessons for over 20 years. This video in particular is about how to choose the right piano teacher for your child. So if you're thinking about enrolling your child in piano lessons, choosing the right teacher can make all the difference. A few things that you need to think about with piano lessons is if you're wanting to take lessons from a school of music, from someone who has their own private studio like me, if you're wanting group lessons, or if you're wanting to take a college class, there's all different types of ways of learning the piano. As a piano teacher who's been teaching piano since 2001, I've seen students thrive, and I've also seen students quit simply because they weren't matched with the right teacher. Being matched with the right teacher matters more than what parents realize. Today, I'm going to share what I think every parent should know before signing up their child for lessons, or before you sign up for lessons if you're looking for yourself. First, there isn't just one right way to teach piano. One thing many parents don't realize is that piano teachers don't all teach the same way. Just like classroom teachers have different teaching styles, piano teachers do too. None of them are necessarily wrong. They're simply different. So whether you're looking for Suzuki method or traditional piano lessons, group lessons, whatever you're looking for, you need to find the right teacher and the right method that works for you. The key is always trying to find the right teacher whose philosophy matches your child's personality and your family goals. Here at Coeur d'Alene Piano Lessons, I offer free mini lessons that are about 10 to 15 minutes long to see if your child and I, or you and I, are a good fit. I don't ever want someone to take piano lessons from me that doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't feel like they're the right fit. So, you need to ask yourself, what do you want your child, or why do you want your child to take piano? Do you have hope that they'll become a strong music reader? Would they rather learn their favorite songs? Are you looking for a fun hobby? Do they dream of playing in church, accompanying a choir, or maybe even studying music in college? Your answer helps determine what type of teacher is the best fit. When you go to call to find out about a piano teacher, you need to be asking these questions. So for example, the type of teacher I am, whether you're a child, a teenager, or an adult, is I'm a very hands-on teacher. I am fun and bubbly. I love to make my lessons engaging. We play games, we do music theory, we do all sorts of things. I'm not a teacher that just sticks to curriculum. I love supplementing with Disney, pop, Broadway, whatever it is that you're interested in. I have helped students learn how to play for worship, to accompany for choirs. I've also helped older students like teenagers prep for college or for college auditions. That's the type of teacher I am. When you go to call about piano lessons, another thing that you need to think about is curriculum. What type of curriculum are you or your child wanting to learn from? Every teacher has a favorite method, whether it's Piano Pronto, Piano Adventures, Alfred, just pulling stuff online, using chords, whatever it is, every teacher has their style and their preferred method. I personally use Alfred's Basic Piano Library because I like how it introduces concepts in a logical sequence while building reading skills, technique, and music theory together. As you'll see behind me, I have some examples of Alfred's Basic Piano Library. These are just some different levels. They're not the complete sets. With Alfred's, they have many different books you can supplement with, whether it's a hymn book, a worship book, a pop book, Broadway, composition, ear training, ensemble. They have so many different options. But what is a must when it comes to curriculum here at Coeur d'Alene Piano Lessons is I always use the lesson book, which is this one, the recital book, and the theory book. Sometimes I do use the technique book. With technique though, sometimes I kind of feel that this can be a little redundant at times. The technique book is like an exercise book, and it will give different examples or warm-ups that match with the songs that your student is learning in your lesson and recital book. The lesson book is the most important book with all levels of Alfred's. This is where you learn new concepts. It gives examples, it gives pieces to practice those concepts that you're working on. Then in addition, you have the recital book. In the recital book is more challenging pieces. This is where you really get into the hard work and more complicated pieces of the concepts that you're learning in the lesson book. In addition to that, there is also the theory book. This by far is a must. You have to have theory with your lesson. Now, I know lots of teachers do not use all these books. Here at Coeur d'Alene Piano Lessons, I use these books. I always use the theory books. I cannot stress enough how important it is to learn music theory in addition with learning to play. I like to explain to a lot of students and parents that when you're learning to read in school, you're not just learning to say words or to read. You're also learning to write. You're learning to read with fluency and expression. And you're learning how language is constructed. That's the same with piano. In order to be a well-rounded musician, it is my belief that you need to have all those pieces just like you do with reading. You can't just come and sit down and just play whatever. You won't be able to understand everything with the piano. You need to learn to recognize your notes, to read them. You need to understand how music is constructed. You need to understand the language that some of the musical terms are written in. You need to understand timing and rhythm and all these different things that go with the piano. So here in my studio, I always use this theory book with every single level. I don't just stop with beginning levels. I actually teach music theory all the way through level 6. In addition to that, technique, I don't always use. I use it every once in a while for warm-ups. Sometimes I supplement my own materials. Now, another thing you can take a look at is here is a composition book. Here's a note speller book to keep working to solidify more of note reading. Behind me, I have a popular book, this green one right here that has pop songs in it. So there's just all different things that you can actually supplement with Alfred's. Now, when I use these books, I don't just only use these. There's a lot of other different books that I use that aren't Alfred's, but it's really important for kids and adults to practice not just the songs that are in your lesson book, but to also learn songs from all different books. Just like when you're learning to read, you're not learning just from one book. You're reading multiple types of books. Chapter books, mysteries, narratives, science books, all different types of genres. And you need that for piano in order to become a good sight reader and to become a well-rounded pianist. So I could talk on and on about curriculum and how important music theory is. So if you are looking for a teacher that is gonna really teach you to be a well-rounded pianist, you need to ask these questions about what type of method books or curriculum that they use, how they teach, how they present their instruction. And ask for a free mini lesson so you can even see if you're a good fit. Now, there are lots of other wonderful methods out there. Alfred's is just my favorite. I learned on Alfred's. This is what I use with my students. Now, I have used other methods before in the past where I've gotten students from other teachers, and if they want to continue with the curriculum that they're using, I will let them. But this is my preferred method. All right. A good teacher teaches more than just songs. So how many of You have thought, oh, I'll just learn off of YouTube, and you go onto YouTube, you find videos, you're learning songs off of YouTube because you're watching them, hit the notes or the keys on the keyboard. That's not really learning to play, because playing the piano is more than just striking keys. It's learning posture. It's learning hand positions, how to put your hands on the keys. It's learning expression. It's so much more than just learning songs. So if every lesson is simply learning one song after another, your child is eventually going to hit a wall. If you want to keep growing with piano, you need to learn theory, note reading, be exposed to different pieces, different genres, different methods. It's not just learning songs. A strong piano education should include things like reading music, rhythm, technique, ear training. Of course, my favorite, music theory. I can't stress enough how important that is. Musical expression and healthy hand position. The last thing you want to do is use wrong hand positions, and then you end up getting things like carpal tunnel or tendonitis or something crazy like that. So there is a proper way of placing our hands on the keys in order to avoid injury. Songs are important, but they're just one piece of becoming a musician. You need to look for a teacher who teaches the child, not just the lesson. Every child learns differently. Some children need more encouragement, some need challenges, some learn by seeing, some by hearing, and some by doing. One of the things I love most about teaching is figuring out how each individual child learns best. Over the years, I've taught many different kids. I've taught kids that have been on the spectrum. I've taught kids who are ADHD. I've even taught kids that haven't even had all their fingers. And yes, I have been able to get them to play piano. Now, of course, they're not going to be concert pianists, but they have gotten to enjoy the love of piano. Another thing to think about is asking about practicing at home. Parents are often surprised to learn that piano lessons happen once a week, but learning happens during practice at home. That's actually where the bulk of it happens. You can't just come to lessons once a week and think you're going to progress. You have to practice every day. Now, some teachers have different views on practicing. When I was a kid, my teacher wanted me to sit at the bench for 30 minutes and practice for 30 minutes. My mom would set the timer, and let me tell you, I hated it. So with my students, I do something a little bit different. So I want quality, not quantity. And what I mean by that is I want quality practice. I don't want quantity in minutes. So I tell my students, okay, whatever it is they're working on, and depending on the type of learner that they are, will determine how I tell them how I want them to practice. So for example, with some kids, I'll say, okay, I want you to play this song through 3 times each day. And this is what I want you to work on as you practice it. So I'll write in their journal what it is I want them to work on 3 times a day. So that's different than just sitting there for 30 minutes, because you can completely waste 30 minutes and not have a good practice session. So I like to be really explicit in my practice instruction for my students. So a good teacher should help both students and parents understand what successful practice looks like. So at the end of the lesson, with a lot of my new students, I'll talk to parents about what practice should look like, what I expect of them, so that way we're all on the same page. Finally, the best piano teacher isn't necessarily the one with the most degrees or the flashiest performances. I don't have my degree in piano performance. Now, granted, I did go to college for the first time around for piano performance and vocal performance, but I ultimately got my degree in elementary education. So just because a piano teacher isn't a part of MTNA, and just because they may not have a degree, or they don't have their doctorate, or they're not working at a fancy college, or they're not some famous concert pianist, that does not mean that they're not a good piano teacher. You want to look for a piano teacher that your student fits with, a teacher that is meeting the goals that you expect your child to achieve. So make sure when you're looking for a teacher that of course you're considering the goals and what you want to achieve with lessons, so that way you can be paired with the right teacher. The best teacher is someone who inspires your child to love making music, builds confidence, and gives them the skills they need to continue growing for years to come. The number one thing I want from my students is that they love music. That's why I don't push that timer for practice. That's why I don't give them boring scales or different things out of these scale books that you'll see, or hand-in exercises or different things like that. I am the type of teacher that wants kids to just love music and enjoy it. And now I'm not the right fit for everyone, and that doesn't mean that a teacher who values or teaches those hand-in exercises or different things like that doesn't mean that they don't teach their students a love for music. It all goes back to what you're looking for and what your goals are for piano. So that will determine on if you're successful and if you pick the right teacher. If you found this video helpful, I'd love for you to subscribe. In future videos, I'll be sharing beginner piano tips, practice strategies, mini lessons for students, and advice for parents who are supporting young musicians at home. These videos with Coeur d'Alene piano lessons will also be under my Mrs.Watts or Mrs.RebekahWatts YouTube channel. So you'll find Coeur d'Alene piano lessons or CDA piano lessons on a separate playlist. So if you come to my channel and you're looking for reading strategies, math strategies, social studies lessons, science lessons, and piano, you can find that all at a one-stop shop here at my channel. So please like, subscribe, hit the bell. I always forget that part. My kids always remind me of that. And then also follow me on Pinterest. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Miss Rebekah Watts. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, you can comment or you can email me at miss.rebekah.watts@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next lesson.